Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Congressman Castro and very proud to represent our hometown of San Antonio in the United States House of Representatives. And glad to be joined here by the Mayor of San Antonio, Ron Nirenberg, our two state senators, Jose Menendez and Roland Gutierrez, and also Luis Rodriguez, the head of the Hispanic Chamber here in San Antonio. Donald Trump's second term as president has been a chaotic and destabilizing one for San Antonio, for Texas, and for the United States. Recently, he levied tariffs against Mexico, Canada, and China, our three largest trading partners. This morning, after the days of chaos that have quickly become so common from this administration, President Trump announced a month-long delay on the 25% tariffs that he plans to levy on trade with Mexico. Mexico is San Antonio and Texas's largest trading partner. To the best of our knowledge, his administration is still planning to impose deep, devastating tariffs on goods that we import from Canada and China, starting at midnight tonight, with the tariffs from Mexico still looming. These tariffs are a tax on the American people, a penalty that hardworking Texans will pay every single day, every time they buy groceries, fill up tanks of gas, or shop at local businesses. On average, these tariffs will cost the American people up to $1,200 a year. Our state is more active in the global economy than most states. In fact, Texas does more trade with other nations than any state in the United States. As Texas businesses prepare for the administration's tariffs on Mexico, prices are likely to go up even faster and higher because of the high volume of cross-border trade. San Antonio is made up of humble, hardworking people who really, I think, don't ask for much from their government. And most of the people that we all represent don't have $1,200 extra to spare. For many, these tariffs will mean less food on the table, tighter budgets, and less freedom to dream big about the things they want to pursue in life. As President Trump's tariffs on lumber and manufacturing hit our local businesses, affordable housing, already in scarce supply, will become harder to find. Businesses will downsize, and eventually jobs will disappear. President Trump and his Republican backers say that these tariffs are a way to force other nations to get serious about addressing the fentanyl that flows across our borders. And if our president showed the same level of commitment, that would be a laudable goal. But instead, one of his first acts in office was to pardon the man who operated the largest online marketplace for illegal drugs in the history of the world. As a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, I've introduced legislation to disarm the cartels that are responsible for trafficking drugs into the United States. But again and again, my Republican colleagues have sat on their hands, unwilling to take on this issue because they're afraid of the NRA. Here in Texas, Republican leaders like Governor Greg Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton have spent years boasting about how their policies have made us the most business-friendly state in the nation. But these guys are terrified, absolutely terrified, of Donald Trump. They have been as silent as a mouse at midnight since these tariffs were announced. And Governor Abbott knows that these tariffs will badly damage the state's economy, but you won't hear a peep from him. Over the last few days, he's been too busy getting into a Twitter fight with Canada's Prime Minister. Today, we're here to call on Texas Republicans and all of our colleagues, and for Texas. These tariffs are dangerous and destructive, and everyone should speak up about the betrayal that this represents to our families, our businesses, and our workers. I'm honored to be joined today, as I mentioned, by many of my colleagues who are working hard every single day to represent the people of San Antonio. And first, I'd like to introduce our mayor, Ron Nirenberg.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I'm here to join in my colleagues in speaking out in what has to be one of the most ill-advised, self-defeating measures that a president has made in recent memory. Whether tariffs hit today or tomorrow, San Antonio residents will get hit hard. With regard to Mexico, the San Antonio region and the nation's largest trading partner, San Antonio, you need to know, is a major net exporter. Per the OEC, and that stands for the Observatory of Economic Complexity, retaliatory tariffs from Mexico instigated by our president, Donald Trump, could impact up to $19 million worth of exports each and every month. Mexico is also our largest origin partner, and San Antonio businesses import roughly 207,000 worth of goods every 30 days. Mexico accounts for just over 60% of our total trade exports and nearly 57% of our imports. Over 5 million U.S. jobs depend on trade with Mexico, including many here in San Antonio. Simply put, San Antonio's small businesses, family-owned businesses, manufacturers, and most importantly, our working residents can't afford Donald Trump's tariffs. We are urging this administration to end its assault on the American working class, to consider permanently extending the delay to enact these damaging tariffs. Now I'd like to hand it off to our state senator, Jose Menendez.
Thank you, Mayor. You know what's weird about this? If you heard the mayor talk about that 19 per month, extend that over the year, that's nearly $250 million annually. $250 million of trade from San Antonio's region to Mexico that's going to be impacted. I want you to think about all of the trade that's going to be impacted. Every single person, the truck drivers, the people who load and unload the trucks, the people who work at every stage of that commercial traffic that's going to be halted. Because it's not just like Donald Trump can institute these tariffs and not expect a response. And the irony of this is, not only does it mean that more hardworking Texans are going to have to pay more at the grocery store for their products, there was a report in the newspaper that reported that it's going to probably impact the cost of who can afford $3,000 more when the average used car is already costing $26,000 and the average new car costs around $50,000. Especially in a city where so many families rely on one car to get everybody to work and to school. This is an attack on hardworking families. This is why we're here. And the thing that really shocks me, before I turn this over to my colleague, Roland Gutierrez, is that on Wednesday, the Texas legislature is going to be debating whether or not to give a $10,000 discount coupon to people's kids who are going to private schools. So they are working with the White House administration to give folks whose children are going to private schools a $10,000 discount. And on the other hand, they're looking for ways, their actions are going to increase the cost of living to the hardest working Americans and cost so many of them jobs. This is why we're here. This is why we need to stand up. I believe that they will relent to pressure. People need to call. People need to. These are the reasons why we had the federal cuts that were made, the federal spending cuts were halted, and we need to talk about this as well. This is not what people signed up for. Unfortunately, they were warned, and they didn't listen. Now my colleague, Senator Roland Gutierrez.
Thank you, Senator Menendez. Thank you, Congressman Castro and Mayor, for your leadership on this issue. You know, this is the most blatant racist attack on the Hispanic people that we've seen by any president in at least 100 years, and I mean that. Because not only are we seeing these horrible tariffs that are going to affect our nation, our largest trading partner, at least the state of Texas is concerned, but we're also seeing an attack on migrant communities that has kept our migrant community inside, that has kept them from going to work, that has kept them from going to the store, and these are the things that are the effects of a president who claims that he is good at doing business. I have yet to have someone from that White House explain to us how these tariffs are good for business. I want to bring it home to you. Just south of us, we have a company called Toyota. That company gets a product, a raw material product from Canada that transits through the United States, ends up in Mexico, comes back in the way of a chassis that comes over here from Monterrey. And that chassis builds that Toyota Tundra. That is NAFTA at work, USMCA price of that car, if these things continue beyond what this man has threatened. Imagine this. Yesterday I was at the grocery store. I didn't go to the one that I usually go to on Goliad and Military. And I ran into a gentleman. He says, Senator Gutierrez, great that you're here. He says, Senator Menendez shops here. I was over here near the one on San Pedro and Omas. And I got to talking to him. And then when I left that place, I spent over $300 on my groceries for 4 people. Imagine what it would cost a family of 4 trying to make it when their regular grocery bill is $1,200 a month, and now they're looking at $1,400 a month because their produce has gone up so much. People just can't make it anymore. Estos aranceles van a quebrar la familia en Texas. Van a seguir haciendo que esa misma familia trabaje más y más para tratar de hacer el pan de cada día. Este presidente y sus acciones han hecho nada más que ser un pacto racista contra la gente hispana, y eso no podemos aceptar, y tenemos que luchar contra este presidente y sus acciones racistas. Thank you very much.
All right, y'all, we'll open it up for a few questions if y'all have them. As you have a question, please let me know your name and also what outlet you're with. Yep. Yeah, what's your outlet? Yeah. Yeah. Well, the activity that I've seen Elon Musk and about 4 or 5 19 to 24-year-olds carry out to me seems illegal and needs to be stopped. And the Congress is working on doing that. Different lawsuits have been filed, as I understand, to prevent it. But it represents a kind of recklessness and lawlessness that's dangerous for the American people, and I think threatens national security as well. We don't know who these people are that are looking at American sensitive data and information and perhaps invading their privacy. We don't know who they are that are looking at America's classified material, and none of that has been laid out or explained by the administration or by Elon Musk or the committee itself. And so it's incredibly problematic, and it needs to stop. Yes. Anything with lumber or wood, cars, as Roland mentioned, Toyota, groceries generally. You know, there was discussion when the tariffs on Mexico were put forward or announced about things like avocado. So people are going to see their prices go up. And then what I'm fearful of also is this. During the pandemic, there were some unscrupulous companies that took advantage of that moment to raise prices well beyond what was necessary, even to maintain their then current profit margin. In other words, they saw their profits go way, 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 way up. They were seizing that moment of the pandemic, not only because of legitimate supply chain problems, but they were taking advantage of the American people to raise prices. And Donald Trump has now given cover to unscrupulous companies who may do the same thing.
A lot of the crude oil that comes out of Canada is increased at the pump as well. So everything just about is eligible. If the gas and diesel costs more, that means anything that gets shipped is going to cost more. Sí, claro. Mira, como dijo el senador Gutiérrez, este ataque racista del presidente Trump es obvio que le importa muy poco cómo le afecta a la familia. Si una familia va a tener que pagar 25% más para pagar la comida, el pan de cada día, la gasolina, un automóvil, todas las cosas que necesitan para vivir, ¿cómo piensan que van a poder hacer las cosas? ¿Quién les va a incrementar su salario 25%? Va a ser muy difícil.
2 puntos. El primer punto es que el 50% de lo que es la comida, las verduras, por decir, vienen de México. El mango, el tomate, el 50% de la verdura consumida en los Estados Unidos viene de México. Eso es algo increíble. Otro punto y su ataque hacia la gente, a los migrantes aquí en los Estados Unidos. 5% de la gente que está elegible de trabajar en los Estados Unidos son migrantes. En el 2022 pagaron 96 mil millones o 96 billones de dólares de impuestos a los Estados Unidos. Así es que nosotros tenemos que saber que lo que dice este señor no coincide con la realidad, porque ya sabemos que es un mentiroso, pero el pueblo lo tiene que saber. Este señor nos va a decir lo que le da la gana. Al fin del día, lo que está sucediendo es que está afectando familias directamente, en una manera muy directa y muy seria.
Y para la gente lo habló un poquito, pero los que tienen miedo a salir por lo que se dice que está pasando y ahora se tienen que preparar.
Pero cada día yo tengo miedo por ellos, porque este señor no ha hecho nada, no está haciendo redades en los empleos, pero está yendo a las tiendas, al Home Depot, ves a ICE officers, ve a las taquerías y ves a ICE officers, vas a los departamentos y los ves nomás tratando de buscar a ver quién se parece como un hispano. Para todos los hispanos que están en los Estados Unidos, yo y mis colegas aquí, que también nos parecemos o hablamos como hispanos, todos tienen, nada de eso es productivo para un país y nada de eso es productivo para un presidente que quiere sacar un país adelante.
También tienen que saber que si alguien te toca la puerta, no le tienes que abrir la puerta. Si no tienen una orden del juez para investigar, no tienen que abrirle la puerta. Si vas al hospital y te preguntan, ¿eres ciudadano? No tienes que responder. Tienen derechos y tienen que asesorarse de cuáles son sus derechos.
All right, two more if we have them. Yep. Well, I think it's dangerous for the officers themselves because they haven't been trained in this work. It's not what they signed up for. Unfortunately, Governor Abbott, over the years, just as Donald Trump has used the border and immigration as the #1 boogeyman issue to create fear, to incite resentment, to turn people against each other. And so I had not seen his order or his description of what he's going to allow, and I will take a look at it. But Operation Lone Star itself, there were many deaths because of it. There were several suicides because of it. And it's very questionable how effective it was. Yes. Well, over the weekend, I was told by someone who deals in food distribution to grocers that grocers this morning or today were getting a notice about a bunch of prices on different items going up. And so I expect that even though those Mexico tariffs have been put on hold for 30 days, that people will still start to see their grocery prices go up. And remember, there's still significant tariffs on Canada and on China. So Canada and China are our #2 and #3 trading partners for the United States, and Mexico is our #1 trading partner. And so I think they're going to start to feel even more economic pain at a time when people's budgets are already stretched thin.
Have you all spoken with any local grocery stores such as H-E-B or any of the locally owned ones, and if so, what are they saying?
We have reached out, but for now I'm going to keep the conversations private. But as you can imagine, there is incredible concern all around. I think most good, conscientious businesses don't want to have to raise their prices on people. And because of course, they want to be profitable themselves, and if it's going to mean less customers for them, then they don't want to have to raise the prices. But there's a lot of concern This is a town where a lot of people are already living on the margins. It's not a town with a lot of people with a lot of money. So people are already struggling to make it month to month. And then if you add on another $100, $150 to their grocery bill, it's hard for a lot of families. I was on a Zoom call earlier and was speaking to the food bank and mentioned that their work will become even more important now, because as prices go up, you're going to see more people having to turn to organizations like the food bank to make ends meet and to be able to support their families as the economy gets tougher for them. All right. Yeah.
Ran on saying he was going to lower prices. That was one of the reasons why he got into office. And now he's saying, well, people are going to feel a little pain. So does it sound like he doesn't really care about the prices? Or how
One of the things that strikes me, and Roland hit on it, he's called himself a businessman, right? He says he's the best businessman. He said they're going to pay us what they owe us. If you also need to remember that one of the problems with a lot of us, sometimes we have short memories, right? He also said he was going to build the wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. He doesn't care. Bottom line is, in the business world, when he does things and he doesn't pay his contractors, which he has a long history of not paying his contractors on his construction sites. He's been sued time and time. Doesn't matter who gets hurt. So, yeah, he said one thing. I mean, you heard it earlier, and there's a long litany of places where he has shown us that he's a liar. And so it doesn't surprise me.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much.